You guys, I'm so excited. We're getting the band back together. I'm so excited. Yesterday I said I missed Kamala. Here we are. We are so back. It's actually here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's unreal, unreal. We attempted to get this birth certificate for months. For whatever reason, our requests were just being denied. But now that the election is over, it seems magically Jamaica's registrar office is back open for business. We indeed have a hard copy of Donald Jasper Harris's birth certificate, the mother of all genealogical bombs. I'm not going to keep you guys waiting, so let's get started. Look, we were down, but apparently not out. I'll be honest, I thought this series was over. After Donald Trump won, I didn't really see a purpose in continuing the series. But many of you guys kept writing us and were writing in the comments like, Candace, Kamala could run again. You should still carry this on. But I just felt a little bit deflated. Obviously elated that our side won, but also deflated about this genealogical series until now. Okay, so in case you are new to the show and you did not follow the story, you were apparently under a rock for the last 2 months or so, we had encountered some oddities in Kamala Harris's autobiographical book, The Truths We Hold, that we felt were worthy of exploration, namely her grandma, Beryl, okay? The Beryl, at least, that she says is her grandma in her book. This is actually a page from her book. And you can see on the bottom there, it says, visiting my paternal grandmother, Beryl, in Jamaica. Okay, so that woman allegedly was supposed to be the mother of Donald Harris, who is allegedly Kamala's father. And yet that Beryl was actually mentioned nowhere in the actual text of the book, just the photo. And then she was removed entirely from the Youth Readers edition, which was published just a couple of months later. So I also considered it very odd that Donald Harris and Kamala Harris did not and still do not have much of a relationship at all. He, as you will recall, was completely absent during her run for president of the United States. Like I'm saying, like even if you got family issues and family beef, when your daughter makes it almost to the tippity top, you're there just saying good stuff, right? Like just like, oh, she was amazing from the time she was a child. No. Donald did not do any of that. In fact, I ranked it as extremely odd that Donald Harris, in his only written or even spoken piece to the public regarding Kamala, doesn't even mention his own mother or his own father outside of one line in the Jamaican Global. And that one line is essentially like, here it is. Both of my grandmothers had the strongest influence on my early upbringing. Not to exclude, of course, the influence of my mother, Miss Beryl, and loving father, Mass Oscar. That's it. That's all he wrote, ever. The entire article is instead about his grandmothers on both his paternal and maternal side, the great influence that they wield over his life, and he completely just neglects his mother and his father beyond that one sentence. And I'm going, okay, what is going on here? This is a major red flag. I just don't feel that that woman in the book is her grandmother because she just wasn't giving grandma vibes, Caribbean grandma vibes. And of course, this was all speculation and really just going with my gut instinct. I believe in following your gut instinct. I believe the media is calling us all conspiracy theorists so that we are distracted from our guts. And then something huge happened. A Jamaican woman named Dorothy came forward who apparently had maybe been following our series, and she was asked point blank, and she knew Donald's brother. Donald has one full brother. He has a lot of half siblings, but one full sibling named Kenneth. And she grew up with Kenneth, and she knew Miss Beryl, and she described Miss Beryl as being lighter than Kamala Harris. And so when she was shown a picture of Kamala's book, the Beryl featured in Kamala's book, this was Miss Dorothy's reaction.
Okay. Nah, that's not Miss Beryl.
That's not Miss Beryl.
That's definitely not Miss Beryl.
Okay.
That's not Miss Beryl.
So,
and
that means you have to just show it.
Yeah.
So,
that is not Miss Beryl.
That's not Miss Beryl.
Definitely not Miss Beryl.
Okay.
And I know what she looks like. I couldn't have been in a dream, and she definitely did not look like that.
Oopsies. Of course, the press did not want to cover this. They just wanted to bury it. So, okay, we're going to move along and just get to the election. Didn't work out for them. And then more explosive things happened. I then spoke with Kamala's family members whose identities I have been protecting, very close family members. I want to be clear, not like distant cousins, like very close family members who similarly confirmed to me that the woman pictured in Kamala's book was not Miss Beryl, as in not Donald's mom. So we still have no idea who this woman is. My instinct was that this woman was the help. It was just the way in all of the photos that her and Miss Iris, who's supposed to be her mother, are, doesn't seem to me. It seems to me to be someone who might be close to the family, but is not exactly family. Again, just gut instinct. So we have no idea who these women are. Okay. I then learned from the family members that Donald, Kamala's father, was exceedingly private and was involved in the communist underground, very involved in the communist underground, traveling very often, which explains why Miss Dorothy noted in that same exact interview that she never knew Donald. Despite knowing his brother on the island, she never knew Donald because he simply was not around. Now, I want to say this. I never believed in my heart that Kamala was definitively the child of Donald and Shamala Goplin. And I only grew more suspicious when we spoke with journalist Yoichi Shimatsu, you might remember him, who claimed that Kamala's mother was a scientist in the clandestine MK Ultra program, okay? The CIA program that was focused on psychological brainwash. I researched her mother loosely, and his allegation, while we cannot confirm it on this show, I can tell you it makes sense because Shamala worked first for UC Berkeley as a scientist, and then she moved Kamala and the family up to Montreal, to Canada, where she worked for McGill University for 16 years. These are the hubs of MK Ultra. If you've read that book, Chaos, you already know what Berkeley was up to. You know the experiments that they were conducting with LSD on Berkeley's campus. And then, of course, McGill was where the most twisted of all the experiments took place. So I'm showing you this article, and I'm going to read directly from it. This is from the McGill Tribune. It says, declassified mind control at McGill. And this is a direct quotation here. The CIA was initially interested in discovering a truth serum. At the time, many believed in the possibility of a drug to use in interrogations that would eliminate all inhibitions and prompt subjects to speak without reticence. The CIA first experimented with the use of LSD with little luck and later delved into different types of psychotherapy and hypnosis in the hopes of discovering the secret of mind control. Out of the research and experiments that were undertaken within hospitals and laboratories, those that took place at McGill, known as MK Ultra Subproject 68, were perhaps the most notorious. Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron was the head of McGill's Allen Memorial Institute when the experiments were performed and the main researcher implicated in the project. According to the Canadian government, approximately 80 patients at the Allen Memorial Institute underwent de-patterning. The treatment involved putting patients into a prolonged period of sleep for several days through the administration of barbiturates, drugs that depress the central nervous system, and LSD. This was followed by massive doses of electroshock therapy over the course of several weeks, ultimately reducing patients to a childlike state. Quote, the method consisted essentially of the administration of 2 to 4 electroshocks daily to the point where the patient developed acute confusion, disorientation, and interference with learned habits of eating and bladder and bowel control, Cameron wrote in an article published in the journal Comprehensive Psychiatry in 1962. The patient may also show loss of a second language or all knowledge of his marital status. Once patients' brains were de-patterned, Cameron believed that they would be able to be re-taught proper forms of interaction and behavior. This practice, which Cameron dubbed psychic driving, involved subjecting patients to repeated audio recordings in order to reinforce positive messages within their minds. Patients would typically be sedated with muscular paralytic drugs during this process, and they could be exposed to hundreds of thousands of repetitions of a single statement throughout the treatment. I wanted to read you that because you really have to understand what the MK Ultra program was, essentially de-patterning your brain and being able to just insert false memories, to put things in your mind, essentially to create a human mind, okay? So Yoichi Shimatsu, the journalist who came on this show, thought that Kamala was actually a recipient of this program, was a patient of this program, raised up from the time that she was a little girl from her quote unquote mother, Shamala, and her father, Donald, who we now know for a fact was involved in the communist underground. But I want to be very clear, we had and still have no smoking gun regarding that. Just we can say she did work at McGill University for 16 years. We wanted Donald's birth certificate to confirm that he was even the son of Oscar Joseph Harris and Beryl. We put in the request. We put in the request again. We heard nothing back. We were paying for it to be expedited. We were supposed to get it within 3 to 5 days. We did not receive it within 3 to 5 days. Then the election is over. And lo and behold, Jamaica's registrar's office sends us Donald's birth certificate. Drum roll, please. I'm going to show you this birth certificate right now up on the screen. Look at this, okay? And you can see this is very new. I'm also holding this here in my hand. It's very, very new, okay? Not a big deal. You have to reissue the birth certificate. You're not going to send me an original copy. But we're going to get closer here and notice some things that are very, very wrong about this birth certificate. The first thing being his name. We have been searching this entire time, and he is known publicly as Donald Jasper Harris. The birth certificate that we have, and we can confirm that his birthday is correct. We have August of 1938, August 23rd, 1938. That is, in fact, Donald Jasper Harris's birthday. But this man's name is Donald Joseph Harris, which just throws us for a loop. Who is Joseph? Where did the Joseph come from? Did he change his name to Joseph, or did he change his name to Jasper? We are unclear about this. Then we are just utterly shocked at the lack of information on this birth certificate, okay? Let's scroll down here. There is no father listed at all. Father does not exist on this birth certificate, so we cannot confirm that she is from Oscar Joseph Harris's family, although in her book she says that she is. We cannot confirm what age he was at her birth because he's not there, his occupation, nothing. We've got almost the same amount of no information regarding the mother, but we have Beryl Finnegan listed. It won't tell us whether or not she had children prior, doesn't exist. It will not tell us. Oh, also, I should just point out here, her name is spelled Beyril, Finnegan. And that just makes me instantly go, why would Kamala not know how to spell her grandmother's name? Wouldn't you know how to spell she spells in her book Beryl. So are we to believe that the birth registrar of Jamaica got it wrong? And now I know in my mind, I said, okay, well, you'd play this and say, well, maybe you're dealing with people that didn't know how to read. No. This was a remarkably educated family. Donald himself is remarkably educated. We know this. It's why he's a professor. It's why he's been a writer. He's written prolifically throughout his entire life. This is not that family that didn't know how to read and write. And plus, again, here we have is an updated copy that was manually typed in. Let's pull that back up again. So all we have is her first and last name, Beryl Finnegan, spelled in a way that we have never seen it spelled before. Occupation, domestic, that could mean anything. It could mean she didn't have a job. She was working at home. We don't know what exactly that means, but they give us nothing else, not even her age at birth, which is remarkably suspicious. But the biggest thing here, which makes this almost a joke, I am not kidding when I say almost a joke, there is no witness to this birth, and it is not signed by a registrar. Guys, it's not signed by a registrar. Let me just slow this down for you. This means that this is not a birth certificate. This means no one was here and the birth certificate office didn't sign this and it wasn't registered. Every single birth certificate that we have seen throughout this entire series, from birth certificates from the 1800s, not even kidding, when we're looking at people that were born in 1880, 1885, all the way through to the 20th century in Jamaica, we have always had, here's just a sample one of who we thought was Beryl initially, but now we have our questions. You can see there is always a person that is present that signs off as the registrar of births, right? Because otherwise you haven't registered the birth. Okay, a birth registrar is a government official that is responsible for recording a child's birth details. So they officially document their existence, they document their identity, they create that birth certificate, right? You have to go through either a local health department or the government to get that. You go into the office, hello, I'm the birth registrar, I'm here. Hi, this is my son who was born a month ago. Can we get a birth? Sure. And then they have to sign off. There is no one that has signed off on that. There is no witness who was present, which usually you're legally required to have a witness. I could accept this if there was no witness, but at least a registrar who had signed off on it. There is none. So what are we looking at? What are we looking at? By the way, I want to point out that it tells us that this document, which was produced weeks after he was allegedly born. He's allegedly born on the 23rd of August in 1938. It lists that, and I'm just trying to find where this is. Yeah, you can see that in that last segment there, the November 4th, 1938, right next to the signature of the registrar. It says that that certificate was made months later in November, but there was it wasn't registered and there was no witness. So how the hell is this in Jamaica's system at all? That is my question, okay? Now, to be clear, at the bottom there, and I don't know if you guys can see that, but we have it signed from the current person who is leading up the registrar office, and his name is Desmond Davis. So we have a signature as of who it was that printed and signed off this document and sent it to us, because there has to be a registrar. There's no time period. There's just a gap. Again, because there'd be no other explanation as to why you would go in and get the document in the first place. It would just be you with a blank document saying, I witnessed something and I have a child and no one else is here and no one else is signing off on it. What is this? What is this? I am asking this question. This is extremely problematic, and it's not making my brain go in ways that I'm just fully in conspiracy land here. I got to be honest with you guys. My brain is not going, oh, let me make sense of this. Yeah, that's totally normal. Every single person in Jamaica had to have a sign off in the registrar's office in order to get a certificate, except for this one person who is the father of someone who was close to becoming a United States president, except for this one guy. It's always been this way, except for this one guy who was involved in communist circles, who I have never felt really was Kamala's father on the basis of their relationship, on the basis of so many other things, or lack of a relationship, rather. And now I'm wondering, again, well, we've been wondering since the very beginning, who the hell is Donald Harris? Where the hell was Donald Harris born? When the hell did Donald Harris change his name from or to Donald Jasper, from or to Donald Joseph? And why the hell would they send us this? Why would they send us this? This does not prove that he was born in Jamaica. In fact, it proves the exact opposite. It proves that somebody had a leg in that office and just typed this up and had it printed. And who is Beryl? Because I think that spelling is quite unique. B-E-Y is quite unique. It leads me to believe that that Beryl's birth certificate that we just brought up earlier is not the right Beryl. It's not the right Beryl. I think that the correct Beryl is spelled B-E-Y. And there was a Beryl Finnegan who had a birth certificate and was spelled B-E-Y-R-L. Her name was Beryl Pauline Finnegan. And I can show you her birth certificate. Were we able to pull that up, Skylar? Beryl Pauline Finnegan, here she is. We have her, by the way, also on records coming from the UK, and that's it. This young woman was born in 1924, which would mean that she would have had to have given birth to Donald Harris when she was 14. That seems exceedingly young. She's listed as, or the rank rather, of her father. Her father was a cultivator. It says her mother's name is Louise Finnegan, formerly Williams. I was able to corroborate all of this. We have her, okay, in Alexandria, St. Anne. That's where we have this birth certificate from. This could be the Beryl that we're looking for, but I can't find any more of her. Don't worry, I am going to spend the weekend looking for it, because I'm now totally invested in trying to figure out what is going on, because it almost feels to me, after having spoken to Donald's family, learning about how quiet he was, how private he was, how involved in the communist circles he was, learning about her mother, her involvement potentially with MK Ultra, psychological conditioning, it almost seems to me like they just plopped Kamala and her father in a random family line. And it's just a secret, because again, he only has one full sibling, and that full sibling is equally, Kenneth, the one that she mentions, equally as secretive as he is. And apparently, according to his family members, his siblings, he's disappeared without a trace. Disappeared into the U.S. without a trace. This is not normal stuff, you guys. This is just not normal stuff. Who are these people? Why is your father not listed here? Is that even your father? Were you born somewhere else, like in Cuba, Canada? I don't know. But like I said, this birth certificate has led to more questions than answers. And I intend on trying to find some real answers to these questions. I'm just routinely left with the feeling that leaders are just being bred. We know nothing about these people. This just can't be every single person that runs for president, that we just can't figure out where they were born, like, or where their relatives were born. It can't be this difficult. Genealogy can't be this difficult unless there's something really dark and demented going on. Something as dark and demented as maybe the MK Ultra program itself. All right, guys, moving on. I want to remind you about PreBorn because in many ways, this past election brought abortion to the forefront. There are many states who have radicalized abortion, and tragically, thousands of babies will continue to lose their lives, which is why PreBorn, the nation's largest pro-life organization, is on the front lines for at-risk babies and mothers who are facing unplanned pregnancies. PreBorn's network of clinics are positioned in the highest abortion rate areas in the country. They are equipping these clinics with the resources they need to save these precious lives and provide compassionate support to mothers for up to 2 years after birth, all at no cost. PreBorn knows that when a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, she is twice as likely to choose life. Because of this, our year-end goal is to sponsor 20,000 ultrasounds, saving our over 15,000 lives. You can help us reach this goal. It costs just $28 to sponsor one ultrasound. Whatever the gift, whether large or small, it will go towards life. And now, PreBorn will match your gift, doubling that amount. To donate, you just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Again, that's pound 250 baby, or you can go to preborn.com/Candace. Again, that's preborn.com/Candace. Okay, this has been a year where we just have to acknowledge as conservatives, like it's so easy to dunk on the left and how woke they are and how disingenuous they are when they call everything racist all the time and they engage in that sort of politicking, like we say, you know, we're against men in bathrooms and they call us transphobes, like sort of always name calling ad hominem attacks because they don't want to debate the substance of our arguments. This is the first year that we are really seeing in America the birth of the woke right, engaging in the exact same kind of name calling, engaging in the exact same types of emotional manipulation. And there is just no greater topic than Israel and everything that is happening. And we do just have to pause and examine ourselves. And I want to just show you something. So anyways, the International Criminal Court, we talked about this yesterday, issued a warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu's arrest, along with his minister, Yoav Gallant. And it was for starving children, for murdering children as a response to October 7th, the numbers, which are just, it's insane. I mean, we can see this stuff on our X feed. We don't have to imagine it anymore. And obviously, seeing so many dead children, seeing all of these bodies laid out into the streets, irrespective of whether you are going to make the argument they have a right to do this or not, has been jarring for the rest of the world, okay? For people to be jarred by that and to have an emotional response to children walking with cuts and bruises, to watching children starve to death, you can quite literally access these articles, access these videos on X. To have a response to that, of course, does not render you anti-Semitic. But Bibi Netanyahu has decided to respond to the ICC and accuse them of exactly that. Take a listen.
The anti-Semitic decision of the International Court in The Hague is a modern Dreyfus trial, and it will end the same way. 130 years ago, the French Jewish officer Alfred Dreyfus was falsely accused of treason by a biased French court. In response to these false accusations, the great French writer Émile Zola wrote his monumental essay, J'accuse. He accused the French court of anti-Semitic lies against an innocent officer who was later exonerated of all guilt. Now an international court in The Hague, also headed by a French judge, is repeating this outrageous offense. It is falsely accusing me, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and Israel's former Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, of deliberately targeting civilians. This when we do everything in our power to avoid civilian casualties. We issue millions of text messages, phone calls, leaflets to the citizens of Gaza to get them out of harm's way, while the Hamas terrorists do everything in their power to keep them in harm's way.
Okay, so rather than me respond, because like woke right, if you critique Bibi Netanyahu, like tells you like you're anti-Semitic because they're just, again, disingenuous, I figured let's actually let Jews respond. In fact, let's let Israeli Jews respond. Here's a headline in Haaretz, an Israeli newspaper today, an Israeli publication, pardon, analysis. Netanyahu brought the ICC ruling on himself, and now he's whining about anti-Semitism. As always, Israel's prime minister isn't working to shape reality. He's working to shape the perception of reality. The attorney general knows that if she resigns, resigns, her office is done for. Also, wonderful journalists, truly, if you're going to talk about people that you should be supporting and following who tell the truth about everything and don't seem to have, are just not invested in the woke politicking, Dave Smith and Glenn Greenwald, both Jews, I should mention, have had this to say about Israel.
You know what really enrages me about this, and it actually enrages is the correct word, is that for the last decade, at least, probably even longer, pretty much every conservative in America, by definition, mocked this tactic that the minute some group is dissatisfied with some idea, people are opposed to affirmative action, you immediately get accused of being a racist, people are accused of immigration, you get accused of being a white nationalist. You don't want to put biological men, even if they're trans, in women's bathrooms. You get accused of being a transphobe. They have mocked this attempt to weaponize bigotry accusations mercilessly from every single group. And yet the minute it comes to this one particular identical tactic, which is to accuse everybody critical of Israel or opposed to Israel being anti-Semitic, there is much on board with identity politics and censorship, by the way, as well. But this identity politics trip, as any sophomore with purple hair at Oberlin, how do they justify in their own mind this obvious conflict in their worldview?
Oh, I mean, well, first up, you totally nail it, and it is infuriating, but it's even one step further than that. It's then they call us the woke right. They turn around, and just to further mimic the woke progressives, they turn around and accuse you of exactly what they're doing. And I get this all the time, like on social media, and not just from random people, but from like, right-wing influencers who support Israel in this war. And they'll point out that they'll go, hey, Dave, you agree with the woke leftists on this. See, you're just like those campus leftists because they're all against this and you're against it too. And it's like, so you're pointing out that I just happen to agree with another group of people, but you're borrowing all of the worst tactics that are the reason we don't like that group of people. And it's just all so bizarre. And like, you can't even believe that they have the gall to make this argument as they're making it. And just one more point is that, and I know I said something similar to this, I think the last time we talked, but it's not just that it's the same argument as the woke leftists. It's the same logic in a much weaker position, in a much weaker situation to use that same. It's like they're much worse, because it's not as if you were to point out, like if you're saying that maybe a conservative or a right winger will make some point about some policy and then they'll accuse you of being racist. Okay, that's wrong and dumb, and that is done a lot. But you're, in this case, talking about, like, whether you consider it a genocide or not, the mass slaughter of innocent people. And you're criticizing that. It's not just some random policy. And then to use the anti-Semitic card, unlike, say, like groups who might use that on the woke left, Jews aren't even a marginalized group. They're not a marginalized group in the United States of America. They're a thriving, market-dominant. Yes, a market-dominant minority, as Amy Chua would call them, and in the Middle East, in the region, they're by far the most powerful force, with the backing of the biggest, most powerful governments in the history of the world. So, like, it's substantially worse than what the woke left does.
I totally agree with that, and they put it so perfectly. It's substantially worse because they are maiming and caricaturing people for having human decency, for looking at these children with missing limbs, looking at these children that are being pulled out of the rubble, looking at these children that are screaming and bleeding and decapitated. I've seen them carrying the bodies of decapitated children that are the size of my children. And then we have an emotional response to it, and they say, you're an evil anti-Semite who supports Hitler, and it's just like the Holocaust. Actually, I would say it's definitively because of everything that I learned about the Holocaust that I won't stay silent on what I'm seeing done to the Palestinians. And the entire world is having this response, except for America, where we have this remarkable ability to be unbelievably hypocritical, and I would argue spineless on the topic of Israel. The woke right is going to die. I'm telling you this, guys, put a timer, and I'm not saying die literally, I'm saying like that movement, put a timer on this. And 4 years from now, an election comes in 2028, the people that are silent on this, lying at this, trying to socially engineer this as something else are going to have to eat their words. I believe that. I believe people they can sense the lies, they can see the hypocrisy, and we're going to demonstrate their hypocrisy right now in one of the most astounding ways, okay? So to be clear, the ICC court recently, 2023 it was, they also put out an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. Their reason for doing that was they were saying that some Ukrainian children were going missing, which is stunning, by the way, and weighed against the fact that Israel has arrested, I think Time magazine did a whole piece on this, 10,000 Palestinian children over the last decade. They're allowed to, and that's, by the way, not even an arrest, that's detaining them, okay? So they gave examples of when these kids throw a rock, they're allowed to be detained, taken away from their family. Nothing said. But Ukrainian children went missing. The ICC issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. I want you to look at Lindsey Graham's tweets about this. He said, the decision by the ICC to issue an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin is a giant step in the right direction for the international community. It is more than justified by the evidence, okay? While I have no illusions that Putin will ever turn himself in, this arrest warrant is extremely significant because it's an action of international evidence-based body that will stand the test of history. Again, he calls it an action of an international evidence-based body that will stand the test of history. It will also make Putin's travel options in the future very limited. I hope the international community will continue to support the ICC in their endeavors to hold Putin accountable for the brutal invasion of Ukraine. Okay, what was it, like minutes before Israel surpassed the death toll in Ukraine when you weighed it against the numbers? It was unbelievable in terms of what they were doing in Gaza. Okay, now look at Lindsey Graham on the exact same court as it pertains to Israel. This is what he tweeted. I cannot emphasize enough my strong objection to what the ICC has done to the state of Israel. The ICC is a rogue and politically motivated organization that is trampling on the very concept of the rule of law. I made it abundantly clear that I believe this entire process is an abuse of the Rome Statute. I am confident that President Trump understands that the court's actions against Israel sets the foundation for the ICC to come after the United States one day. We must respond forcefully to the court for our own good. Okay, so one of the prosecutors of the ICC, I mean, it's actually laughable because it's such the hypocrisy on that level is laughable. It really just shows you, essentially, you do what we say, or we're going to say you're a terrorist. It's a theme with America. Like, we're good with you as long as we can control you and you do what we say, or else we're going to condemn you and suddenly we're going to say you're a terrorist and you're irrelevant. That's the difference between 1 year, him talking about the exact same court. And again, if you measure the death toll in Ukraine versus the death toll in Gaza over the same period of time, it is astounding hypocrisy at this level, okay? So I also want to show you this because one of the prosecutors, the senior leader, a man named Karim for the ICC, and pardon me, I think it's Karim Khan, I just need to double check that, said essentially that they were being bullied throughout this process and that essentially they were told that the ICC court really is just kind of for like America and Israel to go after whoever the hell they want. And it's actually not supposed to be a process that is true or just. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Dignity of the individual is the protection of babies. I mean, these are fundamental American values that should engender bipartisan support. Now, of course, this situation, unfortunately, lies on the San Andreas fault of international politics and strategic interests. And of course, I've had some elected leaders speak to me and be very blunt. This court is built for Africa and for thugs like Putin, was what one senior leader told me. We don't view it like that. This court is the legacy of Nuremberg. This court is a sad indictment of humanity. This court should be the triumph of law over power and brute force. Grab what you can, take what you want, do what you will, and we're going to simply be we're not going to be dissuaded by threats or any other activities, because in the end we have to fulfill our responsibilities as prosecutors, as the men and women of the office, as judges, as the registry.
Karim Khan, you will probably never see this, but I want you to know that you are exactly correct, okay? Caring about the life of children, innocent children slaughtered, the numbers now above tens of thousands of children that have been slaughtered is not only an American value, it's a conservative value, it is a Christian value. And to the hypocrites and the spineless people who can't say that, they have no place in our future government. I truly do believe that. And that's why I say this unabashedly. I just can't believe, I cannot believe what I am seeing today of people pretending this is about anti-Semitism. Like if somebody else was in there, no one would be saying anything. Like, yeah, no, I'm sure if Putin was in Israel and had murdered 20,000 children, everyone would just be chill, because this is really just about the fact that they're Jewish. I mean, it is just mind blowing. It really is. The dishonesty, the deception, the Western media smearing and libeling anybody who has a soul, and the decency to say that children should not be murdered like this. Water should not be cut off. Electricity should not be cut off. You have Doctors Without Borders saying they've never seen anything like this. They went over there. They've been in multiple war zones, saying that, writing pieces, op-eds saying this is not a war zone. This is not a war zone. This is a genocide. Everybody's just conspiring to hate Jews. I mean, it's pointedly ridiculous, and it is really telling when even Israeli publications are saying that calling this anti-Semitism is a joke. It just is a joke. And I am proud of myself for being on the right side of this thing. And I'm embarrassed. I am so embarrassed that I ever had anything to do with the woke right. I didn't know they were woke on this issue. Like it took October 7th and all of this happening for me to see their true colors. And I am so embarrassed I had anything to do with these people. I really am. And I will not allow them to forget this. I will not allow them to forget that they stood on platforms, called themselves pro-life, called themselves anti-woke, collected money, went out to donors, asked for investments. And then when it actually mattered, they shirked. They shirked their responsibility. They completely cowered. And to think that the majority of people are men, it's even more sickening to me, to be honest with you. It's even more sickening. Anyways, moving on, you guys. I want to take a minute to talk to you about our store over at Sticker Mule. It's packed with awesome Candace Owens merch, including stickers, t-shirts, keychains, buttons, and much more. You can even buy a Candace temporary tattoo. With Christmas right around the corner, it's the perfect place to get your friends or family members who are also fans of the show the perfect stocking stuffer, because like you, they have impeccable taste. So go to stickermule.com/Candace and check it out now. A big portion of sales goes directly to the Candace Show, supporting our mission to empower communities and to promote free thought. Whether you want to show your support or just grab some cool gear, we've got you covered. From Crisis King t-shirts to conspiracy theorist stickers, head over to Sticker Mule for all things Candace. Once again, go to stickermule.com/Candace. You can check it out right now. Okay, I need to issue a retraction, a correction. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. This is so crazy. I read subtitles and as opposed to listened very intently. Anyways, we covered, just a brief update before we get into your comments. I covered earlier this week, mind blown. I don't know why it is that the left hates stay-at-home moms. I don't understand why feminists genuinely hate women that are happily married and want to dedicate their lives to their kids. But we recognize that this year when the feminists came down hard on Ballerina Farm because she bakes bread and dances in muddied cowboy boots and does her ballerina moves and has a massive following of 10 million. And they're like, that can't be. No. And every time we give someone a platform, they have to be anti-man. They have to be anti-family. They have to be little commies. They have to say that they want to be men. Maybe they can be transgender. We applaud that. We applaud that. If they want to transgender themselves, if they say they never want to have kids, we applaud that. But oh my, the first celebrity that didn't take her clothes off, why are her boobs not out? Why are Hannah Nealman's boobs not out? That is what the feminists want to know. Obviously, the only way she can be heard is if she just gets naked, and instead she's dressed conservative. What's going on? So after all these attacks, we got to the bottom of who caused it. It was a young woman named Caroline Burke. And I literally played her entire thesis, which she gave us in like a 6-minute clip, explaining that she believed that Roe v. Wade was to blame for this, the reversal of Roe v. Wade, because she thinks secretly women are only following her because we have this deep-seated fear that we're going to have to be her in the future now that Roe v. Wade has been reversed. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of that again to show you that we played her in her full context regarding this matter of trad wives. Take a listen. So I'm going to show you a clip of her kind of saying that her fame can only be attributed to the fact that women are losing their rights in America. Take a listen.
Public service notification. Everyone pause. I have been quoted in a lot of things in the last few weeks, which has been such a funny left turn in my life. But in one of the Substack articles that I was quoted on, what I read was that Ballerina Farm had 1 million followers in 2022 and has gained 7.5 million followers since then. Which means that when I said, kind of offhandedly, that I thought that this was connected to Roe v. Wade, I was actually completely correct. You cannot tell me that it is accidental that in the 2 years where we lost more reproductive rights than in decades previously, all of these trad wives have been gaining insane traction online. Also, I'm sorry about the bedhead. I'm just really excited and I can't wait. Like, does that not blow your mind? whether you think.
So my mind was not blown because I thought that that was a really dumb thesis. And then we showed other bits of her video, namely that she also just doesn't like the concept of what she terms Bible girlies, women who get so much out of the Bible. And she attributes that to the fact that they just never read fiction literature. It's just because they're not educated. And so they're reading the Bible and these stories are amazing them, but she's read fictional stories that have made her, quote unquote, transcend. And then lastly, we showed you like a 30-second clip of her saying what we thought she said was that all of this, the rise of trad wives, could be contributed to the fall of Rome. And we thought that because, and I'm going to show you a screenshot here, literally the subtitles said there was a correlation between the rise of trad wives and the fall of Rome. So we heard that. It turns out actually she said the fall of Roe. But we had already tackled her opinion on Roe v. Wade, so we weren't trying to misrepresent her. Of course, once my episode went viral and I guess people were reaching out to her, she then wanted to respond to this by trying to make it seem as though I'm a grifter and a liar because we read the closed captions and everyone heard, and the subtitles even heard, automated subtitles, which they do get it wrong sometimes. They heard her say Rome. And she then essentially creates this video on TikTok like, oh, conservatives are grifters and they're liars, not responding to any of our other points in a 25-minute diatribe going over what I believe is her bigotry against conservative women. Like, feminists hate conservative women, and I think it's because we hold a mirror to decisions that they didn't make, and I don't think their careers make them whole, and I don't think that writing articles about Ballerina Farm is going to make her whole, and I do think that actually she has a hole inside of her because she made a decision not to have children, and then she sees this woman up and baking bread, and she is watching her and seeing her smile and dance, and in her mind, she has to convince herself, delude herself into believing that Ballerina Farm is unhappy. She has to convince herself that Ballerina Farm made the wrong decisions and she's making the right ones, which is why she loved it when that feminist went over and violated Ballerina Farm and lied and created a picture that Ballerina Farm was like trapped in an existence that she didn't want to be in, even though even that writer of that Times piece said in an interview thereafter, when asked, do you think that Hannah Nealman is happy? She said, yes. She actually said yes. She didn't include it in her piece because that wasn't her job. Her job was to assassinate the character of Ballerina Farm and her husband. But then when she was asked, she thought about it and she said, yes, I think she's tired, but she's happy. And I can't think of a better way to explain what becoming a parent is. You are tired. It is exhausting. I have had 3 kids over the last 3 years, but I would not change it for the world. And I plan to have more children. I am exhausted, but I am so happy. There is nothing better. The highest point of my day is listening to the things that my children are saying as their brains are coming online and they think they know so much, but they really know nothing. They know nothing. And then you have my 3-year-old son who has decided that he's the authority, teaching things to my 2-year-old daughter, and she's listening to him and respecting his authority, but nothing he's saying is making sense. I'm driving the car and listening to the two of them talk, and he's telling her things like, don't break mommy's glasses or we're going to have to call the police. She says, I don't want to call the police. Okay, well then don't break mommy's glasses. Completely arbitrary. It's not true. She doesn't have to go to jail if she breaks mommy's glasses. But there's these little moments, and they're so cute and they're amazing. And so it boggles my mind that they can't see that. They are the bigots. Okay, I'm not Ballerina Hannah Nealman did not jump onto your account and look through all of your videos and diagnose you as unhappy. You jumped onto her account, saw that she was loved and adored because for the first time, stay-at-home moms are seeing somebody that is presenting their way of life. And yes, we understand her husband has money. Doesn't make a difference. You can come down here to Tennessee and see people that still have 8, 9 children. And guess what? They are happy. They are fulfilled. Truly, I know that boggles your mind. You need to problematize it. But they are happy, Caroline. So we are happy to issue a correction here. She didn't say fall of Rome in that last one, guys. She said fall of Roe. And I still think she's wrong. And I want to invite her onto this platform. And I also just wanted to add this for you because as you were mocking Christians by suggesting that Christians don't read, I wanted to remind you that all of your fluffy ideas about feminism you got because, you went to Columbia. You noted that we used to work together. You thought that I was keeping it a secret. I was actually extending a courtesy to you because you asked me not to, you wanted to stay off record when I told you that I wanted to include your thoughts in my book. Yes, we did work together. I think you're a very talented writer, but I also think that your ideas are a little kooky. And you got these kooky ideas because you're a feminist. And feminism is something that you were likely taught in university. And you think you're so brilliant because you learned it in university with these fiction books. But guess who created the university system? Where does college come from? Christians. Christians. I actually I want to pull up a list for you. Harvard was named after a Christian minister. Yale was started by clergymen, and Princeton's first year of class was taught by Reverend Jonathan Dickinson. In the United Kingdom, the earliest university-type establishment was probably the college, established by the Celtic preacher in about AD 500. Oxford University was established by various religious orders. Likewise, Cambridge University was established in 1209 by Christian leaders. St. Andrews, Scotland's oldest university, was founded principally for the teaching and the study of theology. So you're welcome. You are welcome. Okay? The Bible inspired that. And unfortunately, now things that are antithetical to the Bible have been poisoning the university system. Again, I invite you to come onto this show and to have a discussion with me. And since you're so brilliant and so passionate, instead of blocking me as you have done, because you guys like to live in echo chambers, maybe come learn about how not the alt-right, as you've termed us. We're not the alternative right. We're now the majority of this country. You're the alt-left. Maybe come learn about how the other side lives. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic. You guys, I do want to tell you, we do very much want to speak much more about Matt Gaetz. Obviously, you have seen that Pam Bondi is now going to be the Attorney General, but Gaetz has also confirmed that he's not going to be returning to Congress at all. He's just withdrawn, not only from aging consideration, but he's not going back to Congress, which is really interesting. Pam Bondi is now the Attorney General pick after his withdrawal, and I have some thoughts about that. A lot of people in the deep state like her as a pick, so that is a question mark to me. I can tell you on the surface, she's well liked. Conservatives like her. I have never had a bad experience with her. There's something I can share there. But the story of Matt Gaetz, and we weren't sure why he withdrew. I discovered that in a very long thread on Twitter this morning, and I decided that deserves an entire episode next week of what happened to him. I don't think you realize how much the state went after him and who was involved in it. It's shocking. So we are going to be sure to cover that next week. Okay, lastly, you guys, let's get into some of your comments. Before we get into that, I want to remind you about American financing. The Fed has dropped interest rates, as you guys know, so you need to call my friends at American Financing. Now is the perfect time to consolidate debt and reduce your monthly expenses. A lot of us have been forced to use credit cards because of the ridiculous prices for groceries, power, even childcare. With credit card rates being so high, that debt can get expensive, but with mortgage rates dropping, now is the time to wipe that debt out. American Financing is helping homeowners just like you save an average of over $800 a month. They're even closing some in as fast as 10 days. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. There are no upfront fees to find out how much you could be saving. So call American Financing today at 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. All right, let's get into some of your comments. What are you guys thinking about all this? What are you guys thinking about Kamala? This is crazy, okay? This is, I don't think it's her dad. I'm just going to say it right now. I do not feel strongly that it's her dad. So if one of you guys is around Kamala and a piece of her hair falls, call me. I'm not saying what I'm going to do with that piece of hair, but call me, okay? I'm going to tell you it's not going to be witchcraft. It's going to be more genealogy. Okay, first comment is from Serb. He writes, is it possible that Donald Harris is Indian and Kamala's uncle and that he stole the name of the baby, to which Beryl was a witness? Remember, I am thinking, yes, I am thinking on the basis of what we have learned about the caste system, and that it is highly unlikely that Shamala Goplin, given her status as an Indian, would have been allowed to marry Donald Harris, and had that marriage been accepted without him also being from the same caste system. I think it's likely that he is from the same caste system. But I've just never really been convinced that those are her parents. That's the other thing. I mean, when you see her next to her mother, she looks nothing like her. And she looks nothing like her sister. And I'm just like, what's going on here? And then her sister also very involved, the Hillary Clinton campaign. Like, they're just very political in a way that makes me uncomfortable. It's Archie writes, hey, Candace, I'm interested in your thoughts on the illegal immigrant that killed Laken Riley getting life in prison on the American taxpayer dollars versus the death penalty or getting deported. If he was deported, he probably would kill again. So that would be freedom. I actually am staunchly against the death penalty. I'm against it as a Catholic, but I'm also against the death penalty because I think it's the easy way out. Principally, I'm against it. How great. You get to get a shot and go to sleep. Wow, wonderful. That young woman fought for her life for 18 minutes. And you're telling me this person's going to get to be just go to sleep someday versus being in a prison, which is actually really hard, and potentially being treated like someone who raped and killed a young lady. I would rather go with life in prison. Matilda writes, saw a 2009 clip of Kamala on the Oprah Winfrey Show. She announced her as the first African-American female DA. Even if she was black, that description is still inaccurate. Yeah, I don't even know where. When somebody said African, I was like, where? That's not even a question about whether or not she's African. The answer is just no, 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 no. Nobody in that family, the entire lineage came from Africa. So that's a nonsense. But, Kamala can be whatever Kamala wants to be. She wakes up and decides what she wants to be for the day. Sarah writes, you guys should check out the Israeli government. Netanyahu's influence is dying down. Everyone wants him out, especially Israeli citizens. Yeah, I'm aware. By the way, before October 7th happened, there were protests and people wanted him gone, which is why it's just amazing. He only receives this welcome and applause in America. And you have to ask yourself why. And there are a lot of questions that we should be asking about the American-Israeli relationship. I believe so. And especially as today is actually, I believe, the anniversary of JFK being shot. I don't know if call that a death anniversary. And, we know that leading up to his death, these documents are still classified, but we know that he was having very heated arguments with the Israeli prime minister at the time. And they won't release those conversations. And I think they should release those conversations. What do you think? Anwar writes, wasn't Jordan Peterson a professor at McGill? Was he? Was he? What's going on? What's going on, guys? What are you saying? What are you guys saying over there? What are you guys saying on the internet? What do you mean? Who are you, Anwar? Is this true? Mark, Skylar, you guys come out here right now and tell me if Anwar is telling the truth.
He is telling the truth.
Oh, I don't know if you guys could hear that, but they said he's telling the truth. What? Anwar, don't do this. Anwar, do not do this. Do I have to do the genealogy of Dr. Jordan Peterson, a psychologist? A psychologist, no less? I can't. He goes on and writes, also, you should have on Kavork, I hope I'm saying that right, from the Syriana analysis to ask him about the Christians that are being slaughtered in Syria, or just interview Assad. Love you, Candace. Yes, I'm very aware about what's going on in Syria. I'm very aware of the fact that Assad has been protecting Christians. I've received tons of emails to that effect, and I'm very aware that it just seems to be the case that our government keeps assisting in the mass murder of Christians, and we're being told this isn't about Christianity, but every place that is Christian does have to come down, including Russia, which is like 90% Orthodox Christian. Yeah, that's got to be collapsed. It's kind of a running theme. Once you start to examine history through the lens of religion, you realize yesterday is the same as today. What does the Bible say? There's nothing new under the sun. It's always been a religious war, but I believe Christians in the West are just asleep at the wheel because of psychological brainwashing that takes place in our classroom and a lack of understanding of true history. But let me tell you how I really feel. Scad Kui writes, you said that you want to do an episode about Syria, my origin country. I suggest you look into ISIS creation. Oh, I'm aware. Suddenly, people from every nationality imaginable were involved in the fighting there. Yeah. Who was it that said ISIS was created by Obama and the West? Who said that? I can't remember, but trust me, I'm on the Middle Eastern knowing what's kind of going on there. Suduenas writes, Candace, has World War III already started? We cannot send our kids and husbands to die. We all probably will if we don't stop this madness. How do we do that, everybody? Information is power. I really do believe that, which is why misinformation is power. It's why they have put so much misinformation, have been so focused on seizing the school system, the education system, establishing the federal education via the Department of Education, and just polluting the minds of our youth, and then making people believe, being brainwashed, believe that they have to go to college so that they have 4 more years to brainwash them. And now it's kind of suddenly going the opposite direction. And that's kind of what happens naturally. The pendulum swings so far, and then it just sort of snaps back really quickly. And we get to be a part of the snapback, which is why I am just so optimistic every single day, because you feel it. It's too big now. It's just too big now. It's not, the genie is not going back in that tiny little bottle, I'm telling you. And even when they force their hands and they start demanding people are censored and they come after you economically like they have with me and get her fired and then get her off of YouTube and demonetize her, the people are with me. You guys are with me. That is all that matters. Your support of our show is the reason why we get to do this every day with a big old smile on my face, because being a happy warrior drives them even crazier. And I really am a happy warrior. I just am. That's the Catholic effect, I think. It really is just realizing they're up against God, and I wouldn't want to be on that side. So lastly, guys, reminding you that if you want to continue to support the show, you can do that locals.com. You can give whatever you can. I know times are tough. They're going to get better, though, because conservatives are about to get back in power. But if you just donate monthly, it helps us keep the show so that we don't have to be so fearful of the economic threats that we have endured since this first 6 months of the show. Also, you can, if you want to just support by buying some gear, you can head to clubcandace.com. We have our Black Friday bundle deals going on, 4 different bundles. The Standis get a helmet bundle, the Candace Standis Forgotten Country bundle, the Standis Christ is King bundle, because Christ is indeed King, and the Standis Blackout bundle. Don't forget that Blackout book is autographed. We have restocked them. Of course, we have more mugs. We have this mug that everybody asked us to please restock because it's so pretty. It is pretty. It's really pretty when celebrities cry. Look how pretty. Poor J-Lo, poor LeBron, so sad. Anyways, you guys, that's it for this week. Be happy, warriors, and we will see you on Monday.